Hey all, welcome to my channel. Very quickly, not quickly, but just going to discuss a little bit about, in the recent news, of course, with what Meta's been doing lately. Um, if you haven't heard, of course, Meta being the fact that they released a, what you would call a competitor to Twitter, called Threads. And it's one of those things where it's pretty much a kind of a clone to Twitter, essentially. Quite honestly, I mean, it's not what one would anticipate. Quite honestly, but at the same time, it's something where a lot of people were losing a lot of faith in Twitter. There have been issues and such. Um, and then, mind you, I should say this is I don't have any accounts with a lot of the Meta properties, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp, or anything else for that matter. So I don't have an account with Threads, of course. And long story short, as to why, is I was on on Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp a while back. I haven't been on it. I've deleted my accounts, I think, for quite some time now, for maybe 6 to 7 years now. One of the things was is because at the time it was what Facebook did when it was called Facebook at that time, where with the aggregated data that they collected from Instagram and Facebook, they were selling it off to other companies without not my approval, but more of not giving me a piece of that pie. I now understand the way Facebook works, of course, at the time, and where it's one of those things where I understood with targeted advertising. They can mine my data all they wanted to and go with the targeted advertising, but it was the fact of that they were selling that data off, even though whether it be aggregated or not, it's still they were selling my data and making a profit off or something. Where I thought the whole purpose of the business model was advertising. Basically, they were giving the ability for advertisers to do direct targeted advertising. And then the other factors as well too with WhatsApp. When they bought out WhatsApp at the time, they said they'd be a separate entity from Facebook when it was then called Facebook, and WhatsApp's data would not intermingle. But in reality, it turned out to be the case. Facebook was pulling data from WhatsApp, the meta information that was from WhatsApp, and using that information. But in any case, the whole thing is basically this with with Threads, which became a direct competitor to Twitter. It's more of a case where the UI. I mean, one of the things Twitter's biggest things basically is this is like what Threads has taken is basically almost copied in a ways their user experience, their UI. But in reality, Threads hasn't done anything different from like what Mastodon done, what Social has done, Truth has done, even Blue Sky for that matter. Um, it's one of those things where like Twitter, what it did is it was pretty impressive. It just hard to reinvent the wheel. Threads coming out with something like this, if it was something different, a different user experience, I don't think they would gain as much popularity. And the thing is, I think Twitter is more afraid of this is because the fact is like within 7 hours, Threads got 10 million users, and those 10 million users were pretty much coming from, Facebook and of course Instagram, uh, where a lot of the celebrities were moving away from Twitter towards Instagram, towards Threads. I'm sorry, towards Threads, because one of the factors is a lot of people were not keen on what Elon Musk was doing. And considering what Elon Musk had done with, the fact that, he had laid off pretty much half or more so, more than the half of the employees, to the point where like nowadays Twitter's having a lot of um, issues, technically speaking, to the point where it's come down to the point where it was Twitter when first Twitter came out. You'd always seen those fail whales. I mean, if they did the fail whale type of thing, I think it bring back nostalgia maybe, but in reality, people are not like not copacetic with it. I'm not as well too. And so, of course, a lot of celebrities and everyone are migrating over to Threads. Now, one of the things is with Threads, one of the interesting factor of Threads is going into Threads, you don't have to rebuild those followers. with Threads. If you have Instagram followers, those Instagram followers come over to Threads. So basically, let's say you have, let's say 1 million followers on Instagram. If you go on Threads, if let's say 500,000 of those Instagram followers are on Threads, then you automatically have 500,000 followers on Threads. So basically, anyone that has an Instagram account, if they sign up for Threads, those followers migrate over for those that are on Threads, as well as the fact is that you're automatically following people that you were following on Threads on Instagram as well too. So that's why I think Twitter's a little fearful of this, is because the fact is it's like Facebook having over 2 billion users, as well as Instagram now coming close to over 2 billion users, that right now, as of Sunday, I think they have about 100 million or so Thread users, like more than what Twitter had grown out to be. And it's a case where, like, as more and more people start migrating over from to Threads from Twitter, or to opening up a Threads account, that Threads is going to have close to 500 million to maybe 1 billion by the time Twitter comes close to that. May come close to that, depending what Twitter does. But the other factor is, let's not forget, Twitter's a little stale as well too, quite honestly. But it's more of a case where the whole thing with Threads, and again, like I said, with caveat is I don't have an account. I'm only basing what everyone's saying. They copied the exact UI. I think it's more of a case because, like, to give that user experience that people have gone from Twitter onto Threads, so that they're familiar with it. If they did something new, I think people were like, I don't know if I want to do this, because, like, that's what Mastodon did. And Blue Sky, of course, being the fact is, even though it's similar to Twitter, the only thing is let's not forget, Blue Sky is more of a protocol. They're trying to create a protocol that for Twitter to use, or anyone to use for that matter, like what Mastodon's doing right now. So that's one of the things that people are not aware of. Even though all these UIs or user experience, like Truth, Social, Mastodon, etc., are similar to what Twitter is, it's more of a case because of the fact is it's like people are so familiar with it right now. So Twitter should be scared of it, quite honestly. The one thing, though, I will say this is the way that the way that Threads introduced essentially people, or introduced users by giving them the followers, was almost no different than basically what not what Meta did, but it's almost no different from what Google Buzz did in the days. If you remember from 2010, maybe 2011 a little bit, Google, seeing how popular Twitter was, that Google basically pushed out into people that had automatically Gmail accounts, they would automatically have Google Buzz. And for those people that you were messaging on a Gmail, you would be their followers and following others at that point as well too. And the whole thing was, back then people were like in an uproar about privacy issues and like, whoa, why are you doing like that? You shouldn't be pushing out followers like that immediately. It's really surprising that with that people were angry about that. But now, when Threads is pretty much almost doing the exact same thing, there's no issues. So it's possible in this situation, of course, that Google was ahead of the curve in this situation, where they were just not ahead of the curve, but they were just too early for the adopters to adopt at that point. And now, to the point where, like, as more and more social apps becoming more and more mainstream, they're okay with it. Whereas with Google Buzz at the time, it wasn't. So it's one of those things where, like, even though Meta has basically come out to compete with Twitter by coming out with their own thing, it's one of those things where you have Buzz that was away, that it's possible, quite honestly, that I think if Google were to reintroduce Buzz, they could jump on that bandwagon as well too. Because one of the things is Google is afraid with YouTube, on YouTube's end, being the fact that TikTok is overtaking them, and they're worried that, like, granted, YouTube is more of a long form format, whereas TikTok was similar to what Vine was, where it was more for short term content. Now, people are, YouTube's afraid because the fact is TikTok is now expanding that content. It's like, oh, you know what? It doesn't have to be like 30 seconds, doesn't have to be a minute, it could be 3 minutes now. That's the point. Is like once it starts growing to 15 minutes, I think YouTube's going to be scared because the thing is, let's not forget, a lot of people are moving away from YouTube towards TikTok, similarly to what Instagram was doing as well too. A lot of people are fearful of that, fearful from that perspective that people are going towards TikTok, and that's why um, Meta had to come out with Threads to gain more users from that perspective. It's the right time because the fact is, again, a lot of people are now dissatisfied with Twitter. You're getting all the negative publicity that you're seeing mass exodus, people canceling their accounts on Twitter. I myself have not yet done that, but I may have to eventually, to the point where like I was using more of Twitter as more of a forum for me to essentially either praise or sort of complain to businesses, let's say airlines and such, some of the stuff that they've done. And then usually their social media department would respond back, and it'd be interesting at that point. Now, if Twitter becomes like another G plus where more and more people are going towards Threads, I might have to go to Threads. Specifically, if businesses are going towards Threads, I might have to go to that route then. But I'm not going to do that just yet. It's a case where like I think people right now don't jumping on Threads is because of the FOMO factor. For me, it's not a FOMO factor. It's more of like, again, it's a matter of what Facebook does with that data. I mean, even now, Threads has not been introduced to the into the European Union because of some of the data privacy policies that they violate, and that's why it's working so well in the U.S. but not in Europe. Um, so that's one thing that I'm a little concerned about as they work around those data privacy issues. You might eventually see more and more people jumping on board to Threads. But one thing that I do say is this might be the opportunity for Google as well too to jump on board and maybe steal some Twitter users as well too, and maybe some Threads users, because like some people aren't going to go on Threads because of the fact of like what Facebook did. People have already canceled out the Instagram account, their Facebook account, and not their WhatsApp account. I mean, depending, but a lot of people have deleted their Instagram account and Facebook account because of what Facebook did, or now what Meta is, now called Meta, what they did back then. And so it's one of those things where like they want these other alternatives, and that's why you saw Blue Sky have met or reached a large milestone of hitting 1 million users. Granted, for me, I'm not on Blue Sky. I would love to get the invite, but I haven't gotten it yet. If anyone out there has an invite, if you can invite me, that'd be great. But in any case, I've been on Mastodon. It's not bad. It's almost similar to, it feels like it's almost like a Discord type of thing more than anything else. It's great to the fact that people can create their own servers, but it reminds me similar to what, now it's not what it is now, but it was called Engine basically, NGIN, which is now what NGINX basically is a little bit as well too. But that's on the technical front. NGIN was basically more of a sort of what the Discord and Mastodon is right now, whereas you created your own social network, and you have others come onto that. It was like kind of a white label type of thing basically. So a lot of things that were that introduced 10 years ago, 13 years ago, that didn't gain steam are now being reintroduced with other companies and getting more popular. Like again, Vine was popular, but not as popular to the point where when Twitter bought it out, they realized they were losing steam. And of course now TikTok, seeing what TikTok is, it was what Vine was, to be honest. So this is an opportunity for Google, I believe, to reintroduce Buzz to the point where you have who knows how many users on Gmail that people can get on Buzz immediately, and I think people will be okay with it. But it's not a case where you should force them to sign for Buzz. It's more of you should say hey, look, if you sign for Gmail, you automatically have a Buzz account. Similarly to people where they force people to basically when they had Google Plus or G Plus, if you wanted a YouTube account or Gmail account, you had to have a Google Plus account. And then, like, they're trying to force people into Google Plus. Shouldn't have forced them. It should have more of like been there available for them. Like, if you sign up for a Gmail account, Google Plus is automatically there for you. Whether you set it up or not, it's up to you. Similarly, same thing with YouTube as well too. So I think if Google, or in this case Alphabet, were smart enough, if Alphabet were to introduce Buzz and Google Plus or G Plus, I think you might see more and more people jumping towards it at this point, honestly. I think people are a little bit tired of what Facebook is doing or Meta is doing, that they might jump onto that. And that's why you're seeing a lot of people jumping onto all these alternative social medias out there. Honestly, it's one of those things where I would see another perspective of how Meta came up with Threads, by pushing, Instagram users. And now the fact is like, let's not forget, with Instagram, or this, going off a little bit, sidetracking here, but it's a question of what Facebook did. When Facebook first came out, it was one of those things where Facebook pretty much overtook what MySpace was. Kind of followed the model of Friendster and MySpace, but made it, eventually copied them and then became more popular. Similarly to when Instagram came out and Facebook bought out Instagram, Instagram was losing popularity to Snapchat because of stories. And then Instagram eventually copied stories, put it on there, and Instagram started getting more and more of those users from Snapchat back to Instagram, to the point where Snapchat became no longer a de facto at that point. So in this aspect of Threads coming out now, I think Twitter has to be concerned, and I see why they're trying to sue them, because the fact is if Instagram and Facebook does what they did and how Meta worked in this situation with Threads, Twitter is going to become irrelevant, and Threads is probably going to be the main de facto at this point as well too. To the point where Facebook or Meta might have the monopolization on the social aspect of things, to the point where eventually you might see a fourth app. I would not be surprised to see a fourth app with something to compete with the TikTok and YouTube out there. I mean, that's where Facebook is, but I think it's more of a case where I think they're going to try to create a separate video app that is both short-term and short content as well as long content. And that's why I believe Facebook, Google, or in this case Alphabet, needs to come in and reintroduce Buzz. I think Buzz was kind of good. It was just the way it was introduced, but if they reintroduce it correctly and executed correctly, I think they can be an alternative competitor to Threads. There's a case, of course, Blue Sky, but Blue Sky is really, again, it's not creating the UI, it's more creating the protocol. If Google came out with their own protocol and then put Buzz on top of that, it might be a different story as well too, to be quite honest. Similarly to Google Plus as well too. If Google weren't to introduce that sort of blockchain, that protocol on top of blockchain, where content creators own their data in a ways that you would have Google Plus and Buzz probably getting more momentum over Blue Sky, over Twitter, over Facebook, over Instagram and such. I think you'll see a lot more people at that point as well too. But only time will tell at this point, quite honestly. But with that, I'll just leave it at that right now. Let me know your thoughts. Are you a Threads user? Do you think Threads will pretty much take everything away from Twitter, where Twitter will become irrelevant? Do you think it's the right time for Google to reintroduce Buzz? Maybe the same UI aspect, or to Google Plus for that matter? Or 3, work with Mastodon, work on Mastodon, or go to Mastodon, migrate to Mastodon, or Blue Sky for that matter. The only thing is with Blue Sky, it's only 1 million users. If they can grow it even more, if they would open it up a little bit more, I think you would see a lot more people on there. But with that, I'll just leave it at that. Again, if you like my content, like my videos, like my channel, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you don't like my channel, don't like my videos, but still want to watch my videos, again, please subscribe. And I thank for those who are subscribed. I thank you for that. And also for those that comment, I do read your comments. I do respond to them when they warrant a response, and also when I do get notified about them. Please leave your comments in the comment section. I also welcome feedback. I love feedback. At the same time, I do ask if anyone does have a Blue Sky invite link. If you can help a brother out, that'd be great. If you're willing to pass it along, that'd be great as well too. But with that, I'll just leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and of course, unrehearsed. Until next time.